some full pallets, and some mixed pallets. That would be one customer order. So I have to specify a capability for collecting together for a customer some full pallets and some mixed pallets, which means I have to be able to retrieve items from storage, put them together on a pallet, and wrap it probably so that it's stable, and then put that together with some other pallets to create a customer order. So what do I need to know to specify this kind of order assembly function? I need to know what's the format for a customer order. What does it look like? I may need to know things like the cube or the weight. I may need to know things like the area, the country, the geographic area that it's going to, so that I can get orders together onto a common truck. I may need to know something about the customer, because I may have customers that I treat differently. I may have some special customers, right? So there are things about these orders that I may need to know in order to decide how I want to assemble the orders. Those are the attributes of the orders. They're intrinsic attributes. I don't have to make any decisions about these attributes other than to note that they're important to me. But they're attributes of the orders themselves. Now, what I'm going to do, I'll give you a preview. What I'm going to do is I'm going to group these customer orders on the basis of their intrinsic attributes. Because all the ones that are alike, I'm going to treat alike. So I want to create groups of orders which are going to be treated the same. And I can create one group of orders if all the orders look the same, two groups of orders, three. I could have many different groups of orders. Actually, I'd like to have as few groups as possible, because I want to have as few different ways of assembling orders as possible. That's the design decision, is how to group the orders. It is the most fundamental design decision in warehouse design, is how to group customer orders. What set of attributes do I want to look at, and which attributes are going to define what I say is similar customer orders. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decompose the outstream into component streams, which are themselves contain orders that are very similar. And I'm going to do this on the basis of these intrinsic attributes that I've identified. When I do that, I'm going to say, okay, now this set of orders I'm going to treat alike. I'm going to assemble these orders all in the same way. I've now said what are the fundamental capabilities that are going to be required to assemble this. So if a customer order, if part of what I do is I retrieve full pallets and stage them for shipping, that's a capability. Those pallets have to be somewhere, and I have to get them from there to this staging area. If I say I have some customer orders which are going to be mixed pallets, then that says I have to retrieve cartons, and somehow I have to get those cartons collected together so that I can build this mixed pallet. So that defines the fundamental capabilities. So now I have orders that are similar, and I'm going to treat them the same. When I go to define similar, I may be using some knowledge that I have about my motivation. I could be motivated to make it easy to do the assembly. I could be motivated to make it quick to do the assembly. That's two different things. But somehow I have a motivation that's going to guide this design decision about how to assemble the orders. So if you go to Jim Apple's, this Apple, Meller, and White paper, in section 6 there is an example, which is the one I've already been using, where a customer order consists of both full pallets and mixed pallets. And so what that tells me is I have at least 3 different, what I will call order assembly functions. I have to retrieve full pallets and stage them. I have to build mixed pallets, and then I have to stage them as well. Now, and I'll warn you, when you read that paper, and you come to this example, what Jim will do is not only group these outgoing customer orders, he'll create these streams, but he'll also at the same time say, here's how I'm going to build these orders. And what I'm telling you is, if you're going to teach warehouse design, don't do it that way. Because that's asking students to put together too many different things that they don't understand. So what I would say is, first, define the function. Do functional specification. And then later, come back and say, now how am I going to implement this function? So functional design first, implementation design next. So here's what I have in this example. I have three functions. One is retrieving and building mixed pallets, one is retrieving full pallets, and one is assembling customer orders, which can consist of both full pallets and mixed pallets. That's all I have. So now I have I've taken this out stream and I've actually created three different streams. This one, it turns out, is exactly the same as the out stream because this is assembled customer orders that consist of both full and mixed pallets. But I've specified three functions. One is the assembly of the mixed pallets, one is the retrieval of the full pallets, and one is the building of the customer orders. So I've grouped those orders in a way that I think makes sense. And it's based strictly on the nature of the outgoing orders. Now, why would I start with the outstream? One reason is that conventional wisdom has it that order picking, order assembly is where most of the expense is in a warehouse. And so we should start there to make sure we get it right. That would be one reason. Another reason is that is the business end of the warehouse. That's the customer satisfaction end of the warehouse. And so we want to make sure that we're building these orders in a way that makes the most sense with regard to what the customers really want. That's what a warehouse produces, is orders. Now let's turn around and look at the end stream. Basically, what do I have to do with the goods that arrive to the warehouse? I have to get them off the trucks, because otherwise I'll have a parking lot full of trucks. Right? So I have to ingest these goods somehow. I've got to put them somewhere. So one way to think about looking at the end stream is to say, what's the nature of what I receive? Do I receive cartons? Do I receive eaches? Do I receive full pallets, partial pallets? What is the nature of the thing that is received? And then I could look at some other attributes of the goods that come in. I could look at the cube. I could look at the weight. I could look at where they come from. I could look at what their storage requirements are. Is this something that can be ambient stored, or does it have to be refrigerated? Is this something that's extremely valuable and easy to lose? Or is it something nobody's going to walk out the door with? So there are attributes of these goods that are coming in that may be important to me. I may care about what are the sizes of the quantities that I receive. I may care about how fast this stuff goes through the warehouse. Those are all intrinsic attributes of the goods that are being received. And then I'm going to do exactly the same thing that I did with the customer orders. I'm going to look at these and say, which ones of these are similar? Because when I've decided that they're similar, I can treat all of them the same. I don't care about their identity. I don't care if there's 5 SKUs in this group or 5,000. I'm going to treat them all the same. So that's the design decision, is how do I group the arriving goods, the goods that are in the end stream. That's the second fundamental design decision. So I'm going to treat them all alike. Oh yeah. I can take a particular item and I can treat it more than one way. I'm being heckled. So I may have goods that come in on pallets, and I'm going to store them as pallets. But I may also want to store them someplace where I can retrieve cartons quickly. So I might take a particular arriving good and put it in more than one internal stream because I want to treat it differently. I have two different ways I want to treat it. Now, the nice thing here is that if you do have data on customer orders, you can, and data about the goods that are arriving, then you can use standard database technology to ask lots of questions. You can build Paretos and histograms, you can knock yourself silly with this stuff. But keep in mind that the purpose for it is to decide which of the SKUs are similar because you want to treat them the same. So I'm going to decompose this in stream based on how I'm going to store these goods. But this is functionally. I'm going to store them, all the ones that are in a stream, the same way. I'm going to store them together. And I might guide that decision because I want to be efficient in how I use space, or I may guide it that I want to make it easy to retrieve because it's something that I use a lot of. I can have different criteria that are driving this decomposition decision, but I'm driving towards a functional specification of how these goods are going to be treated. So again, going back to Jim's example, he looked at the incoming goods and said, okay, I have one group is goods that I receive in less than pallet quantities. And so all of those goods I'm going to hand stack on shelving. That's the way I'm going to put them away. And then I have 3 groups of full pallet SKUs. Ones that I think are slow movers, I'm going to store them some way that gets them out of the way. I have